Hi, I'm Jeremy Duffield, Senior Solutions Architect here at Advizex, and today we're going to be doing a demo of the PowerStore Manager. So what we want to do is log into the PowerStore Manager, and as you can tell, it's HTML5. Round of applause. All right, so as you can see, we have HTML5 and we're on our dashboard, in that everything kind of works left to right. So we have the overview of the PowerStore cluster, and inside of that we can see that we have one appliance. We do not have any alerts, and we're not really watching any devices, which we can talk about later. So we can see here that we have 2 volume groups in our block, 26 volumes, and 5 hosts. We also have 1 file system, an SMB share. And as we scroll to the middle tab, which is capacity in our dashboard, we can see the overall physical used capacity. So we can see we're using 3.3%, or about 1.9 terabytes. It is a lab box. And we can see our overall data efficiency of 4.6 to 1. And then we can see our top consumers of our array. And then finally, we can take a look at performance. We can see last 2 years. We can also take a look at the last hour, last month, and then we can also dig down a little bit into bandwidth details, IOP details, latency, and our I/O data size. So we can also, in here, we can also scan into and zoom into a particular time period in our graph and dig down deeper into it. So the next tab in the PowerStore Manager is our monitoring. This is where alerts, events, and jobs, as you can see on the screen, is listed. We can see any event that's been going on, any jobs that have been ran, and any current alerts that we've had. So next is our compute tab. This is where we get into our host and host groups, as well as virtual machines and such. So as you can see here, we have 2 clusters. We have the management cluster and our lab cluster. We can simply click on add a host, and we can find by host name. We can define the operating system, description. So if we want to just call it test host, and we can dictate it as, we'll call this one a Windows box. We can come in here and we can decide whether we can look for whether it's fiber channel or iSCSI. Don't really have anything connected, so won't really find anything. But as you can see, everything here is wizard driven, very simple to use. And so next we also have our virtual machines, which if you're using vVols, will show up here as they're using and discovered by the virtual vCenter. It'll be discovered by the connection with VASA. So next is our storage tab, and this is where we can look at the volumes. We can create volumes. Simply give it a name. We tell it how many we want to create and the size. We can do gigabit, megabit, or terabytes. We'll do a 10 gig. And here I can actually select a host group right away. I can assign it a volume protection policy. And I can also dictate what the performance will be. Click Next. Select a host again if we want to. We can also automatically assign a logical LUN ID, or we can specifically specify what the next LUN ID we want to use. And then we simply say create. We can see that the volume was created. We go search for it. And here it is, this video 1. We can take a look at it. We can modify it. and I realized that I fat fingered it and it should have been 20 gigabit. Simply say apply, and now we're at 20 gig. So we can increase the LUNs as well. We also have more actions. We can add it to the watch list. So again, we had that on the dashboard. If I want to keep an eye on this device, I can add it to the watch list, go back to my dashboard, and here it is. So again, with volumes, here's where we can, again, we can map it, we can unmap it, we can assign a protection policy, change the performance, we can restore from a snapshot, we can gather support materials on it for a case that we may have open with Dell EMC, and we can also create or create a thin clone or refresh using a related volume. All right. Also within the storage tab, we have volume groups. If we're wanting to group volumes together, in this case for our management and lab gear. Storage containers. This is really the pool for the pool for storage. Then we also have our file systems. Whether we create one for, with SMB or NFS exports, and our NAS server, which houses the file systems. And next we have the protection tab. This is where we can set up replication or remote systems for replication. And it's simply where you add the management IP address for those who are familiar with Unity, the exact same way. And next we have protection policies. This is where we can create our snapshot rules or replication rules. So if we go in and we want to create a snapshot policy, we can name of it, and we can say what days we want snapshots. We can say how often, and this can be done as easy as 5 minutes up to 24 hours. We can also say what time of day if we want to specify the time of day, and how long we want to keep those snapshots for. It can be for hours or days. And then if we have replication, we can create a replication policy for setting up a new or existing destination. And since we don't have one, I can't set it up, but you can do it as RPO as little as 5 minutes or up to 24 hours. And then you can also set alerts if it doesn't meet those thresholds so that you know you need to go in and check something. Next, we have the migration tab. And this is really used for importing or migration purposes from pre-existing arrays. So currently, as of today, the PowerStore can import data from these systems. That includes the Dell EMC Pure Storage, the SC series or Compellent. It can also import from Unity, VNX2s, and most recently Extreme IO. All right, next we have the hardware tab, which is where we can take a look at the actual hardware of the array. So we can go in here and we can see here in the appliances screen that there is exactly one appliance in this cluster. If you had a cluster with more than one appliance, they would be listed here, and you can go into each individual appliance to look at them separately. So if we look at the ports tab, we can see all the different ports that are available. And if we click on one of them, we can get into the actual look of the system. And here we can see that there are 2 nodes in each system. There's node A and node B. And we can click on each of the components and see exactly what it is. We can look at the storage ports. We can tell if the link is up or down. And we see here that FE port 1 is a 32 gig and is online. And we can also take a look at the other modules, which is your IP ports, and these are running 25 gig. We can also take a look at node B, which sits right on top, just reversed. And then we can actually go in and take a look at the different drives that are in the box, check the status, whether they're healthy or not, what slot they're in. We can get their part numbers. And we can also take a look at the NVRAM drives as well. And then finally, we can look at the internal view of the array by node, so we can actually look at the different hardware actually inside of each of the nodes. All right. Then finally, we have the settings tab. This is where all the internal workings and settings are set up. So we can see here under property is where we can change the name of our cluster. And here, the next one is upgrades. This is where we upload packages to upgrade the code on the PowerStore. Next is licensing, and with PowerStore, there is actually no licensing file, so it's just on. Then under cluster, the last one is power down. If we need to power down, whether it's a Dell EMC support person or if we need to move it from a rack to another rack, you can power down the cluster in a safe manner. Obviously, you have to put a user ID and password in to be able to do that. And then next we have the security with our certificates. Lets us know what the information is. The encryption, we can download our keystone for backup purposes. We have audit logs that we can go and look at different logs. Then CHAP, you can disable or enable CHAP. Then obviously the SSH management, where we can enable or disable SSH connectivity to the PowerStore. Next, we have the networking section. This is where we can enact jumbo frames and set our sizing. Next, you have the network management for different connections into the array, whether you're using iSCSI targets, DNS, all that good stuff. Next, you have your infrastructure services, like the aforementioned DNS servers, NTP, and any physical switches you may have for expansion of the PowerStore. Next is the SMTP settings for setting up email alerts and things of that nature. Next, we're going to get into the support section. And a lot of us EMC customers are used to ESRS or SRS as it's known today. And with PowerStore, we have the Support Assist. And this is internal to the system for dialing home or for remote access into the system. It is enabled and we can put in the contact information and things of that nature for cases and such. Next, we have the service account, which is where we can come here to change from the default password. Next is the support materials, and this is really the log collection for the system if we are needing to upload logs to support. Next, we have the general support, and this is just little quick links into support sites within Dell EMC. We can schedule a part return, whether replacing a driver or another part. We can click on how-to videos, download support forums, and look into any other information that we see here. Next is the disable support notification. So if you're going to be doing maintenance and you don't want the system to dial home, you can simply modify that, and you can enable maintenance mode for minimum of 1 hour or for however long that you need to have it in maintenance mode so that it does not dial home. And then the last section is the user section. This is where we can add users, whether we're using local user accounts or LDAP. And then finally, we have directory services for setting up LDAP. And then finally, email notifications for alerting. And that is all of PowerStore Manager in a nutshell. If you have any questions or would you like to discuss further, contact your Advizex rep and they'll get in contact. Have a great day. Thank you.